Hey guys, Rowdy here. Today I'm going to talk about some of the perks and some of the disadvantages of having SA. Before I begin, this perks and disadvantage list is unique to me, not other people with SA or caudal regression, none of whom I've actually ever met before. So I have a list of top 5 disadvantages of having SA. Number 5, not being able to ride a roller coaster or some other ride, that requires you have legs to hold yourself in the seat, or a certain harness, or something like that. This is actually only number 5 for me because I'm terrified of a lot of roller coasters and a lot of other rides. So it's very rare that I'm just like, darn, I wish I could ride that. But I always use it as a cover. If I'm in a theme park, like a roller coaster will terrify me, and I'll just be like, darn, guys, can't ride that. They won't let me. Sorry. So that one might actually work in my favor a little bit, but I guess it is a disadvantage. Number 4, cannot hold hands while walking or dancing. This comes up at like weddings and dances, I guess in general, things like that. Um, and or sometimes you just want to go for a walk with your girlfriend and hold her hand while you're walking. Another thing on that note, though, handshaking. 99% of the people I come across when I meet and greet, I shake their hand. There's only a rare few that just wonder if it's like an awkward thing to do for me or something like that. So very rarely there's an awkward situation there. Number 3 is wet weather. Just having to deal with wet weather, with the ground being wet. I have gloves, but they're made out of cloth, so they get wet, and then they also made out of leather a little bit, so they just smell really bad. And then also, my pants and the lower part of my shirt is usually pretty close to the ground. Sometimes that'll get wet, and I don't know. I really don't like having to deal with the rainy weather. Another side note, I live in Alabama. We get morning dew here that lasts like really late in the morning, and that always annoyed me as a kid, especially in high school. I would go the extra mile to not have PE in the morning, so I didn't have to deal with it. Number 2, it is difficult to carry things. I can put stuff in a book bag and carry it, but that's assuming I have a book bag with me. I don't always carry a book bag. But a lot of times this comes up is actually in like a eating or restaurant type situation. Like maybe I want to carry a to-go box, or maybe I want my drink to go or something like that. I can't put those things in a book bag. Also, just open top drinks in general, like even in my own house, if I'm, just trying to carry coffee to my table, which is fine, it just takes a little extra effort, you know. I could solve this problem by getting a thermos or a jug or something like that to put my liquids in. I am aware of that. I may not always have a thermos around, so. The number one disadvantage of having SA, from my perspective, is elbows. I'm getting a lot older and I can feel it a lot more in my elbows. I'm not able to walk like longer distances. My elbows just give me a hard time, and it's just really annoying to deal with sometimes. So I take steps like doing physical therapy and things like that to try to keep my joints strong. Elbows were not meant to be knees, so anybody that's walking around on their hands would have to deal with this. It's my number one disadvantage. Okay, so we talked about a few of the disadvantages. So now we're going to focus on perks, because there are a couple of perks of having SA. I actually have a top 6 list here. So let's begin. Number 6, I don't really need a ton of room. This usually occurs if I'm riding in a car with somebody. I don't need the leg room. They can usually put, like if they're carrying items, they can usually put stuff in the legroom, section. Or if I'm in the back, they can usually move the seat back as far as they need. Sometimes this ends up being a way more convenience for those around me than for myself. But if anything, it's usually a perk. Number 5 is parking in the handicap spot. There have been times, a lot of times, where I've gone places and it's just really crowded and all the handicap spots are full. More times than not, I can get a handicap spot and it's really, really nice parking close. I like that. Alright, number 4, getting good seats at shows or concerts. There have been many shows that I've gone to where they have entire sections, for people in wheelchairs and things like that. And it's usually pretty good seats. They make sure your view's not obstructed. The number 3 perk, minimal or no lines at airports and or theme parks. I just included both these because, you may travel to a theme park. It was about 10 years ago. Me and about like 7 or 8 other friends were all at Busch Gardens. Not only did we not have to wait like 2 hours in line because it was a long line, it was a river raft ride, but we got to ride the ride like 9 straight circuits. They just let us keep going. Now, that probably wasn't necessarily a perk for every, disabled person or anything. That might have just happened that one time. But it was so funny. Every time we went around the circuit, just all the people just waiting in line, giving us like the meanest look. It was great. Dealing with airports is difficult enough, so I love the fact that I usually get like the shorter lines, and security's not always a hassle. The number 2 perk, I'm allowed to skateboard anywhere. I really hope by going on the internet and saying that it does not ruin it. But as of right now, I can go pretty much anywhere, except airports usually. I recently got a motorized skateboard too, so that just makes things a lot easier. Like going to the mall is actually kind of fun now. One story on that, I was actually at Voodoo Fest in New Orleans one year, it was about 7 or 8 years ago, and a cop did stop me for skateboarding. Now, the streets were super crowded, so basically, as soon as we got 10 feet away from the cop, I just got back on my skateboard, and it wasn't a big deal. I was a little surprised that the cop actually stopped me in the first place, and I would have loved to go to, like, court over that. Like, that would have been fun. That's one of the few times I've ever been stopped skating. The number 1 perk of having SA, and again, from my perspective, is I like that I look different, and I like that I get around different and do things different, because it gave me a unique perspective on life, and it blessed me in a lot of ways. From the start, it taught me, humility and patience. I needed to be grateful and appreciate everything that I had. So I was just like automatically instilled with that lesson. I look around today and I see people that, take things for granted, and I don't care that they do that. I'm just glad that I'm not like that. I think that's definitely the biggest perk of all. But anyway, that's just a little list I came up with for fun. A lot of things are easily recognizable from the outside in. So if you guys have any ideas or any thoughts on what might be a perk or what might be a disadvantage, let me know in a comment below. If anybody with SA or caudal regression just happens to be watching this video, let me know if you agree with these perks and disadvantages, and let me know if you can add to the list. But anyway, that's going to do it for this video. I'll catch you guys next time.